Jefferson Robbins for NCW Life. There are two people running for an open seat in District 4 for the Wenatchee School Board. I'm joined by one of those people now, Kendra Martin. Kendra, thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Kendra, can you introduce yourself? I mean, what do you do? Who are you? What led you to try and go for this position?
I've lived in Wenatchee since 2016. I moved here with my three children at that time, and two of those three are certainly products or will be future products of Wenatchee School District. My son decided to go back to Texas to go to high school just because he likes to move around and he is always interested in being challenged in different ways. And so he moved back to Texas, but my middle daughter is a senior this year and will graduate from Wenatchee High School, of course, at the end of this year. I have spent almost my entire time here working for the Wenatchee School District, actually. I was hired in 2017 by the Nutrition Services Department and served as the office manager there and almost in a little bit of an assistant director role. In 2019, I was offered an opportunity to work at the high school as the executive assistant, and so I took that role on and just recently resigned from that role. I think that we're currently in a battle for education right now, and I think that battle is only going to continue to get worse, and the distractions are going to get stronger if we don't maintain a united front to the primary purpose that we are an organization is to educate the future of our communities. And so I think that we've been distracted by some things, and a lot of those things are political in nature and don't really have any business being at the core of what the school board is meeting about or what teachers are worried about. Teachers should be worried about and focusing on teaching the content that they're in charge of to the students and making sure they're meeting those educational needs of our students. Now, there's a lot of layers to that. Students who are hungry don't learn well. Students who are suffering with emotional or mental distress also have a lot of distractions, are not learning well. But we aren't psychologists, we aren't doctors, and so it is not the school district's responsibility to diagnose those things. It's to alert those things and then make sure that the right people are in place to help those students. And we aren't in a position where we need to be making decisions otherwise on people's overall health. Our focus should stay on education.
When you say overall health, can you be specific? What kinds of health dimensions are you talking about?
Physical and mental and emotional health, mostly the social emotional side of that full encompassing health picture as I see it has been, I think, one of the biggest distractions. And I think part of that is coming out of COVID. And I think that there are some things that we really do have to address as a school district to make sure we do have supports in place. But again, specifically debating things around gender, that's not for the school district to debate. How those things are handled from a state, like we are not state legislators, so we can influence our state legislators as individuals, but our responsibility is to make sure those students are getting the services they need. And part of that, I believe, is bringing the family into the conversation and making sure that if a student feels unwell in any way, specifically a social and emotional way, that they have safe people at the school district to speak to, but also that we're partnering with their parents. And I do understand, I don't live in a bubble. I know that not every student goes home to a family where they have safe people around them. I do understand that. But those are the outlier situations. That's not the by and large reality for the majority of our students at Wenatchee School District.
So if a student who is realizing their identity, is coming to the conclusion that they are transgender. If they realize this, but don't feel safe in disclosing to their parents, but do have a teacher that they trust, what do you think should be the district's approach? Should that teacher, having been informed by the student, then go and immediately contact the parents?
I don't think it's the teacher's responsibility to contact the parents. I think that the teacher needs to work with the school building administration, and if they're at the high school, the social workers at the high school are a great resource as well. But each building has a student services principal or counselor or social worker, and that is the person who should be in charge and responsible for taking that information and making sure that student and their family is connected to the right resources and in the right way.
There are state laws, though, concerning disclosure of a student's gender identity and when that should be discussed and when that should be brought back to the family level. Sounds like you think that might have been a mistake or that law might be an error. Is that right?
I think that, our state legislator also have laws on on children as of the age of 13 being able to be in charge of their own medical care. And I do know that there are some benefits to that because there is a percentage of people in this entire country, right? Not even just in this country, in this world, who don't have access to appropriate medical care because they don't have a responsible adult to make sure they have that access.
Well, our school district here and districts across the state have adopted commitments to diversity, equity, and
Hmm.
inclusion. And this again follows state guidelines for how schools should approach those issues. Um, does that fall into the category of the kind of distractions that you're talking about, or is including DEI in the district's planning a good idea?
So it is part of our strategic six in a roundabout way. We don't specifically say, we're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The way we do that is by talking about making sure that everybody feels like they have a place and they can find their group, and that component of the social aspect of learning, which is a critical component to education. Um, I think that they have been distractions in terms of not being really certain how to handle it, and being a victim to falling into the trap of just either checking a box or not really digging in and sinking our teeth into and asking those hard questions. What does this actually mean to us? Those are three things that are incredibly important to us as a society, not just in the school district. And those things start with a social component in school. And so being committed to making sure that we are teaching age appropriate and honest content, especially when it comes to history, is critical to that. Celebrating that every single student is an individual and they come from a family of individuals, whether they have siblings in the district or not, whether they're longtime residents of the Valley or brand new to the Valley, they all bring something different to the table and everybody has a different story. And that's where we also have to ask those questions on equity too. We've dealt with a lot of that through COVID, and I got to deal with that firsthand as we were trying to ask and answer the question, how do we educate students so we can't bring them into the building? And some very blaring uh, economic disproportionates became evident in that, not just in a hungry student situation, but in a tech situation, an internet situation, and all of those things. And so I think that the district did a really good job of responding and putting their arms around those things.
What do you think, Kendra, from your point of view, is the duty that a school board owes to its students?
The duty that the school board holds is to hold the cabinet accountable to making sure we are making strong educational decisions to support the growth and development of our students. That is why the board exists, to make sure that every component of that is held accountable, from the superintendent to how the money is managed to our learning and teaching and to our human resources, making sure that our staff is taken care of so that they can take care of our students. That is a very important piece of that puzzle.
Well, Kendra Martin, candidate for District 4 on the Wenatchee School Board, thanks a lot for being here today.
Yes, of course. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're watching the NCW Life channel.